Welcome to another edition of Pastor Kumuyi's Illustrations.
But there's battle in life. Sometimes it's financial need and spiritual dryness. Sometimes it's disappointment with the present and fear of the future, that you are struggling in between all these things. But what's the answer? Faith is the victory. And I'm believing God with you and for you. Others have felt like you are feeling. Others have gone through what you are going through. Faith made them to overcome. Faith will make you to overcome. Look at 1 John chapter 5 verse 4. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. As we talk about faith, there are some words that are associated with faith. In fact, these are the words that make faith meaningful, dynamic, and powerful. Many times people have tried to have faith alone, faith unseen, faith unfelt, and faith without all these other companions and associates of faith. And because of that, their faith has not worked like it ought to work. But in the battles of life, these are companion words for faith, and they must go along with the faith. They must. If they don't, generally you may find that you are not actually being able to overcome the way you ought to overcome. Number one is the word trust. Trust is a word that we can also translate confidence. Confidence in God's faithfulness. But you say, I thought that is the same as faith. Yet in a way it's the same as faith, because they always go together and they look so much alike. Trust is in a way almost passive, that you are resting and relaxing and leaning upon him. It's not so much connected with commanding and praying. It's not so much connected with being very, very active. And it is not so much connected with giving words of authority and words of decree. It's just resting and relying upon him. Totally resting, confidence in God at such a time. And it is that word that makes your faith to really have weight before the Lord. There is no inner fear. There is no inner turmoil. Because you know that you are depending and trusting and resting on the God that is eternal. In Acts of the Apostles, chapter 27, from verse 20. And when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope that we should be saved was then taken away. There was a battle here. There was a tempest here. There was a storm that Paul the apostle had to go through in this place, of course with other people. Can I remind you that this thing started in a subtle way before this time? That Paul came to Jerusalem, and the elders called him, and they said, we have heard much about you. And the believers, thousands of them here, they have heard much about you. That you have been telling people all over that they should forsake Moses. But that they will know that there is nothing of this at all. Let's avoid this trouble, because they will come together. We have 4 men here that have vows upon them. These do according to our word, and there will be no trouble. And Paul, feeling that he should listen to these elders in the church. I mean, important people like James, important people like Simon, important people like John, pillars in the church, and other people like that. And he listened to them. And then he got to the temple. And then the Israelites came and said, save us, hell, look at this man that taught men everywhere that they should forsake Moses. And they grabbed him, the very thing he was trying to avoid. We can't always avoid trouble in life. Just please God. If you please God, you displease Satan, and there's trouble. But if you please Satan and you displease God, then he forsakes you, and there is trouble, and there is no deliverance. If you please men at the expense of forsaking the will of God, again there is inner trouble, and there is judgment. And yet if you are pleasing God, there will be opposition and persecution. Where do we run? Nowhere. Just stay in that trouble and have faith to overcome. You will overcome in Jesus' name. You know, the people that said, when I was in deeper life, there was so much trouble, so much storm, so much tempest. Let me go to a church where there will be no trouble. Have you found a church like that before? A church where there will be no trouble. If they are not following God, they have trouble with God. If they are following Satan, they have problem with Satan. If they don't rebuke evil spirits and witches and wizards, the evil spirits and witches and wizards will be killing them. If they rebuke them, then these witches and wizards will be working against them. Where is the resting place? There's no resting place. There is no church I will go, and then there will be no trouble. I had an overseer of a church. The trouble was much. And he called the congregation and he told them point blank and said, look, I know I have a ministry and I have a call. If it is not easy here, I will go to another place and fulfill my ministry. There's nothing like that. If he left that church and went to another place to fulfill his ministry, will there not be Satan there, which is there? He'll get into the midst of new people that don't know how to pray for him, and the trouble will be much more. Have you found some of our sisters that have said, I didn't know that this is what marriage is like. I know I cannot remarry, but I'm going to leave this man. How can a person be a Christian, a child of God, and then we are married? And I thought I was marrying the will of God. I'm a Christian, he is a Christian, and I'm having trouble like this. I will pack out. You know what we pastors do? We beg her, and we say, don't pack out. She says, no, I want to pack out. I don't want trouble. I want to live my life so that there will be no trouble. We beg, and she eventually packs out. And the husband comes to us and he says, my wife has packed out. And we say, why? She said, the trouble is enough. I can't bear any other one. Let me go and rest. And we experienced pastors. Now the other pastors who are not experienced, they don't know what I'm saying now. The others that are not experienced, they go to that woman, they beg her, and he says, no, now I'm resting. Now there's no trouble. I want to enjoy my life. I want to pray. I want to read Bible. We who are experienced will say, husband, leave her alone. She doesn't want to see trouble. She thinks that you, husband, and I, the pastor, that we are her trouble. Let trouble leave her alone. Stay in your house. And 1 week, she doesn't see the husband. Her heart is troubled. Are they not are they not coming to beg me? And then 2 weeks, sleeping alone, oppression on the bed. I said, what is all this? And the 3rd week, the child is sick. The little child that she has taken away. And I said, if these people are not coming to beg me, let me go to them. and went to the pastor and said, pastor, I went away. You don't even love me. You didn't come for me. She is begging him directly. And then you say, well, what are you going to do now? Well, since the Bible said, now it's Bible. That whatsoever God has joined together, let no man put asunder. I don't want the devil to take an advantage of this situation. I think I'll go back to my husband. You'll go back to trouble. No, God will see me through. You know, sometimes if we're running from place to place and think that there is no trouble, there's trouble everywhere. But faith is the victory. In the battles of life, have faith and trust in God. I was talking about Paul the Apostle. They said, so that there will be no trouble, go into the temple and do this. Doing that, the trouble came. And then they pulled him out, almost to tear him in pieces. And then they rescued him. After rescuing him now, then the son of a relative came to say, Paul, they're going to require from this man that they should bring you out to examine you thoroughly and further. But 40 people have made up their minds that once you come out like that, they'll lynch you. They'll kill you. Before you ever come to that place, 40 people have brought themselves under an oath that if they don't kill you, they are not going to sleep. So go and tell the man. And they told him. And in the night, they whisked him out and put him in the boat. In the boat, the storm came. It was like they were going to die. What's he going to do now? In Jerusalem, they told him to avoid trouble. He got into trouble. At the prison, the son said, they're going to kill you, so that I will not go and tell him. Immediately, they made the arrangement, put him in the boat. In the boat, the storm arose. With despaired of life. With their own hands, they put all their resources, everything in the boat, in the ship, they threw into the river. And eventually, an angel came to him by night and said, Paul, all you see is a foam on the sea, on the wave. Nothing is going to touch your life. There's nothing to panic about. The trouble is there. How be it? We must be upon an island, and the ship will be destroyed, but as for your life, everything is intact. Clothes may be burnt, car may be damaged, material things, iron and glass may be destroyed, ship of wood and metals may be destroyed. Nothing will touch your life. Why are we worried? In any case, the boat did not belong to Paul. And so an angel came to him, and then he said in verse 21, but after long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, sirs, ye should have hearkened unto me, and not loosed from Crete, and to have gained these and laws. And now I exhort you, be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar. And lo, God has given all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God, that it shall be even as it was told me. That's trust. He rested in faith. That trusting goes along with the faith. They had been fasting. In fact, Paul too had not eaten for about 14 days. And now he was weak physically. Could he shout and decree and command? All that was not even necessary. The faith and the...
I hope you have been blessed by this edition of Pastor Kumuyi's illustrations. Please don't let this illustration die. Pass it on to others, and you could be of help to someone somewhere. Till we meet next week again for another edition of Pastor Kumuyi's illustrations. Remain blessed.